I'm Damon LaLonde, and this is Scootney Flats Vineyard, the Vinagium Vineyards group. This is 40-acre quarter section, 33 of it's planted, and we have a 61-acre vineyard that is behind me up on the hill below Bellevilla Vineyard of the Hedges, and it is 61 acres, 45 planted to a mixture of Bordeaux and Rhone and Portugese and a little other fun stuff.
When was this planted?
It was planted in 2006 and replanted after that.
Okay, so who is getting some of these grapes then?
Rob Griffin of Barnard Griffin, Ron Bonnell of Bonnell family. We have Dana Madsen of Madsen family. There's also Chris Sparkman of Sparkman Cellars, and various other small wineries that are picking up fruit.
Now you have
John Bookwalter.
Okay. You have two different, very distinct sites here. Can you talk about the soil differences between each of them?
Well, here basically it is one soil type, which is almost all Scootney, except behind you as a corner there's some Warden, which is planted Alta Merlot, and it is just about 4 acres of that. But otherwise, it's all Scootney. It's very rocky, a fair amount of carbonate in it, and not a lot of topsoil there.
So what distinguishes it from more of your standard Warden soil is the amount of rockiness in it?
Yes.
Okay.
And whereas the upper vineyard is got, as Coke was saying, even it's probably 4 to 6. There's some, even some little bits of Shano. You've got the Hezel, you have the Taunton, you have the Warden, a small amount of Kiona. There's just varying pockets up there, and a lot of varietals there were chosen to go into some cab blocks that were in each of the soil types, so that we could look at and just how the cab reacted in the different soil types.
For a wine lover who's not a geologist and just is working to get the cork out, what's the difference? What's the difference that they're going to see in the bottle for these different types of soil? I guess, what do you see as a farmer?
As a farmer, I see the way the vines react, whereas if they are more vigorous or less vigorous, you have pockets of ash, which definitely limits the vigor, and so you'll see more. That's where you'll see some of your yellowing first. You'll see the smaller berries in the areas where there's a little bit more drainage, more stress in keeping them wet, whereas the Warden soils are a lot more uniformity to the whole setup, and then slightly larger berry size, but then still a lot of that still has to do with the management and what goes on during the year and what we can control and what Mother Nature doesn't allow us to control. You
have a whole bunch of different clones of Cabernet, which is very unusual in Washington. Washington hasn't really played with clones that much. Can you kind of walk us through what some of the differences are on those?
Well, for us, the differences are yet to be known. As far as growing them, as you get into, we have mainly all the FPS, so we've got, when you get into the clone 21s and 24s, I have noticed higher crop loads in those varietals versus the 2, 4, and 6. Also, depending on the sites where they're at, the back section of this vineyard, where we have them all in 2-acre blocks, they're very uniform. They're very identical. The ripening this year is identical, where Brix TAPH. So there's not much difference even showing there, except 2 of the blocks did show higher crop loads earlier in the season versus the other 3. But I also believe that has to do with a difference in the nutrition that I used on those blocks last year.
So basically, this is kind of a big science experiment as well.
It is. Different row orientations, different clones, everything. I know a lot of winemakers drive by the front road and everything's east-west, and they don't realize that the backside is north-south rows. And so, sometimes people are concerned about sunburn, but we haven't seen a lot of it here. A little bit in the Merlot, where the lighter canopies, but as far as the Cab and more robust varieties, the 7x4 spacing that we have and the size of canopies, we have a fair amount of shade going on at times in the day, and I kind of keep things open naturally and balanced from early in the season, and so a lot of these clusters are acclimated the whole season, and so I haven't had a chance to really see too much major sunburn. even on all row orientation. So that's been pretty neat to see.
What's your background?
My background is, well, I have an irrigation degree from Walla Walla, and then I was with St. Michel for 5 years and left as a viticulturist for the Yakima Valley and Red Mountain, and then came here to work with this project.
So you graduated from the University of St. Michel?
Yes, I did.
To come here.
Yes, I started in '99 with Rob Griffin, though, for a couple of years. I started in the winery, but Rob had no vineyards at that time.
Right. Okay.
So I needed to get out in the vineyards still.
Talk about this vintage, because I mean we're here on a day that you'd normally expect blue skies and 80 degrees on Red Mountain, but it's raining and dreary. What's going on this year?
Well, it's not abnormal for us to be seeing a little bit of rains in September, but as far as the forecast, I didn't expect these rains today. I expected them when we got them over the weekend, but it's we had an abnormally over a half inch of rain over the weekend. It's just it's unpredictable, and it doesn't really bother me here on the site, even though Red Mountain isn't the warmest area this year, but we've kept the crop loads in check, and that's something because of seeing how flowering went early in the year. I decided that this wasn't a year that you wanted to try to push it to the edge, so we kept things trimmed back and wanted to make sure that we did have a good ripening. And we've also had the ability to make multiple passes late this year, so we've been able to get in there and remove those that were not going through veraison as fast as the rest of the vine, and also make extra passes just to catch anything else that still wasn't. And I still think, talking with some other people, that part of what we're seeing, it was definitely weather from the spring, but there also is more winter damage that was not noticeable during the winter, which is going to give us what we see also, because you're going to have your primary and secondary and your tertiaries pushing, and they're going to be at different stages. So the flowering itself could have been a direct result of actual winter damage that wasn't noticeably by cutting buds or going through. I mean, because we did get some temperatures that caused some things, and we have a block of Malbec that's in the lowest spot of the vineyard, and it took a while to really come out this year. And then finally came out, and it's fine. But I think there's a lot of different things that affected what was going on this year, and weather's part of it. But I think what went on during the winter was part of it too.
Have you picked any grapes yet?
Yes, we've picked probably about 10 tons of Merlot and a ton of Tempranillo. And we're going to pick about a ton of Grenache tomorrow, and then next week I assume we're probably going to roll with about 40 tons of Syrah, and another probably 25 of Merlot. And then stuff was just going to keep trickling.
Okay. Everything hand-picked?
Everything's hand-picked except for we have the 3 20-ton loads that are going to be machine-picked with a special machine that does sorting on board. So, and that's going to Rob Griffin and some to Milbrand.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.